Now as they came down from the mountain, Jesus commanded them, saying, "Tell the vision to no one until the Son of Man is risen from the dead." And his disciples asked him, saying, "Why then do the scribes say that Elijah must come first?" Now, they just saw Elijah, and the last prophecy of the Old Testament is Malachi chapter 4, verse 5, where it says, "Behold, I will send you Elijah the prophet before the coming of the great and dreadful day of the Lord." So that's the last promise in the Old Testament, that God will send Elijah before the coming of the day of the Lord, before the Messiah comes. So as they're walking down this mountain, Peter, James, and John are trying to figure out, well, what about Elijah? If Jesus is the Messiah, Elijah is supposed to come first. So Jesus answers their question in verse 11. Jesus answered and said to them, "Indeed, Elijah is coming first and will restore all things. But I say to you that Elijah has come already, and they did not know him, but did to him whatever they wished. Likewise, the Son of Man is also about to suffer in their hands." Then the disciples understood that he spoke to them of John the Baptist. John the Baptist came in the spirit and power of Elijah, but Elijah the prophet will come again. He will come first as the forerunner for Jesus Christ at his second coming, when he comes again. That's why he's able to say, he will come, and he has come. He has come in the person of John the Baptist. Elijah is coming first, verse 11, and will restore all things. Elijah will come before the second coming of Jesus Christ. Many scholars and Bible teachers believe that Elijah will be one of the two prophets that are mentioned in Revelation chapter 11 during the tribulation period. That are two witnesses there in Jerusalem in Revelation 11. And it's interesting, the miracles these two witnesses perform, they have the power to stop the rain from heaven. Well, that sounds like Elijah, who stopped the rain for 3.5 years. And they will turn water into blood. That sounds like Moses. That's what he did in Egypt. And so many believe the two witnesses in Revelation chapter 11 will be Moses and Elijah. And here you have Moses and Elijah meeting with Jesus on this mountain. Now that brings us to verse 14. We're cooking along here, aren't we? "And when they had come to the multitude," so they come down the mountain, and when they get to the bottom of the mountain, a man came to him, kneeling down to him and saying, "Lord, have mercy on my son, for he is an epileptic and suffers severely. For often he falls into the fire and often into the water. And so I brought him to your disciples, but they could not cure him." And so when Jesus and the 3 disciples come down the mountain, there was a demon-possessed boy waiting for him. Often, when we have a mountaintop experience with the Lord, Satan is at the bottom of the mountain, waiting for us to come down. You just heard this testimony from the kids on the mission trip of it. They had this mountaintop experience on Tuesday, and all of this spiritual warfare on Wednesday. That's how it goes. And we just need to be mindful of that. We can expect spiritual warfare to be waiting for us when we come down off the mountaintop. When it says that this boy was an epileptic, it doesn't mean that he had epilepsy. They didn't know about epilepsy back then. The word just means that he had seizures. And as we read through the passage, we understand that he had seizures that were the result of demonic possession. And so here we have an instance where a physical ailment was brought on by demon possession. And that doesn't mean that all physical conditions are demonic, but some are, and this one is. And we're told the demons caused him to fall into the fire and to fall into the water. So the demons caused the boy to inflict self-harm. And the disciples were unable to help the boy. They couldn't cast this demon out. So verse 17, "Then Jesus answered and said, O faithless and perverse generation, how long shall I be with you? How long shall I bear with you? Bring him here to me." And Jesus rebuked the demon, and it came out of him, and the child was cured from that very hour. And then the disciples came to Jesus privately and said, "Why could we not cast it out?" And so Jesus said to them, "Because of your unbelief. For assuredly I say to you, if you have faith as a mustard seed, you will say to this mountain, 'Move from here to there,' and it will move, and nothing will be impossible for you. However, this kind does not go out except by prayer and fasting." Now, the disciples had cast demons out before. Back in Matthew chapter 10, Jesus sent them out and they cast out demons, but this time they could not. This demon was harder to cast out, and this demon caused unbelief in the hearts of the disciples. Jesus rebukes them in verse 20 for their unbelief. That's why they weren't able to do it. And Jesus tells them in verse 21 that this kind only comes out by prayer and fasting. Well, the disciples had no idea they would encounter a demon-possessed boy that day. How would they know to pray and fast? Jesus is talking about a lifestyle of prayer and fasting. To just have a regular lifestyle of praying and fasting so that you are always prepared. So that you're always prepared spiritually for whatever you may encounter. Because you don't ever know. You don't ever know what you might come across in the course of a day. And so we should have a lifestyle of praying and fasting and just keeping ourselves spiritually ready and spiritually alert for whatever may come our way.